The sun was setting over the old abandoned hospital, casting long shadows over the crumbling walls and broken windows. The air was thick with the smell of decay and rust, and the sound of creaking doors and shifting floors echoed through the deserted halls. A group of 4 friends, Alex, Lily, Jake, and Sarah, stood outside the hospital, their excitement palpable as they prepared to explore the mysterious building. "Hey guys, it's Alex here, and we're about to go inside the abandoned hospital. This place has been abandoned for years, and we're so excited to see what secrets it holds," Alex said into the camera, his vlog recording their every move. "Yeah, we've heard so many stories about this place being haunted and stuff. I can't wait to see if they're true," Lily chimed in, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Let's go, I'm dying to see what's inside," Jake said, leading the group towards the entrance. As they stepped through the broken doors, they were greeted by a musty smell and a sense of foreboding. The walls were peeling and covered in graffiti, and the floors were littered with debris. The group cautiously made their way down the hallway, taking in every detail. "Look at all these old medical equipment, it's like we've stepped back in time," Sarah explained, pointing to a rusted gurney and a collection of dusty medical tools. They continued to explore, their cameras capturing every moment as they made their way through the abandoned hospital. The walls were lined with old patient rooms, some still containing old, decaying beds and furniture. The group couldn't help but wonder about the people who had once occupied these rooms and what their stories were. As they made their way to the upper floors, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The air became colder, and the sound of their footsteps seemed to echo louder. They came across a staircase leading to the basement, and without hesitation, they descended into the dark depths. "Whoa, this place gives me the creeps," Alex said, shining his flashlight around the dimly lit room. "Yeah, I'm definitely getting some serious horror movie vibes here," Lily added, nervously laughing as she looked around. But as they explored further, their laughter turned into fear as they stumbled upon a room with a large, metal door. It was locked, but the group could hear strange noises coming from behind it. "Guys, I think we should get out of here. This doesn't feel right," Sarah said, her voice trembling with unease. But Jake, always the bravest of the group, was determined to see what was behind the door. He found a crowbar and began to pry it open, with the others nervously watching. As the door creaked open, they were hit with a foul stench. Inside, they found a room filled with rotting medical supplies and equipment, and a large bathtub filled with murky water. "What the hell is this place?" Jake said, his voice filled with disgust. "Let's get out of here, this place gives me the creeps," Alex said, already making his way back up the stairs. But as they turned to leave, they heard a loud crash coming from behind them. They quickly ran back to the room they had just left, only to find that the door had been slammed shut and locked from the outside. Panic set in as the group realized they were trapped in the abandoned hospital. They frantically tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. As they searched for another way out, they could hear faint whispers and footsteps coming from the hallways. "This isn't funny, guys. Let us out," Sarah shouted, her voice shaking with fear. But their cries went unanswered, and the whispers and footsteps grew louder. Suddenly, all of their cameras and phones turned off, leaving them in complete darkness. As they huddled together, trying to find a way out, they could hear a faint voice calling out to them. "Help me, please. I'm trapped," the voice pleaded. The group followed the voice, their hearts racing as they made their way through the dark hallways. Finally, they came to a room where the voice was coming from. Inside, they found a young girl, no more than 10 years old, trapped under a fallen beam. "We have to help her," Lily said, rushing to the girl's side. With all of their combined strength, they were able to lift the beam and free the girl. She explained that she had been exploring the hospital with her friends when the floor gave way, trapping her in the room. As they made their way out of the hospital, the girl told them that she and her friends had been playing a game, daring each other to explore the abandoned hospital. But when she fell through the floor, her friends had abandoned her, leaving her trapped and alone. Feeling a sense of guilt and responsibility, the group promised the girl that they would never leave her behind again. They also made a vow to spread awareness about the dangers of exploring abandoned buildings. As they exited the hospital, the sun was setting over the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the abandoned amusement park. The rusted gates creaked open as a group of 4 friends cautiously made their way inside. They had heard rumors about this place being haunted, but the thrill of exploring an abandoned park was too tempting to resist. As they walked through the overgrown pathways, they couldn't help but marvel at the sight before them. The once vibrant and lively park was now a desolate wasteland, with broken rides and dilapidated buildings scattered throughout. The group couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and curiosity as they made their way deeper into the park. "Wow, look at that old roller coaster," one of them exclaimed, pointing to a towering structure that was now covered in vines and rust. "I bet it was so much fun to ride on." "Yeah, but I doubt it's safe now," another chimed in, eyeing the decaying tracks and missing carts. They continued to explore, stepping carefully over debris and broken glass. As they made their way to the center of the park, they came across a large, dilapidated Ferris wheel. It was missing several carts, and the ones that remained were covered in graffiti and dust. "This place is like a ghost town," one of them remarked, shivering slightly. "I heard that this park closed down because of a tragic accident," another added, their voice hushed. The group fell into a somber silence as they walked through the abandoned park. They couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and nostalgia for the place that was once full of life and laughter. "Hey, let's check out that building over there," one of them suggested, pointing to a large structure at the end of the park. As they approached the building, they noticed a group of kids playing around, their laughter echoing through the empty park. The 4 friends exchanged curious glances before deciding to approach the group. "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" one of them asked, trying to hide the fear in their voice. "We come here all the time," one of the kids replied, a mischievous glint in their eyes. "Why?" another friend asked, intrigued. We like to pretend we're exploring a lost world, the kid explained, a grin spreading across their face. The group of friends couldn't help but smile at the innocent joy radiating from the kids. They decided to join in on the fun, playing hide and seek and climbing on the old rides. For a brief moment, they forgot about the rumors and the haunting atmosphere of the abandoned park. They were just a group of friends, enjoying an adventure together. As the sun began to set, the group of friends bid farewell to the kids and continued their exploration. They made their way to the building they had initially spotted, and as they entered, they were met with a musty smell and darkness. They fumbled for their flashlights, and as the light illuminated the room, they were met with an astonishing sight. The building was filled with old arcade games, their screens flickering and displaying pixelated images. The group couldn't believe their luck, and they immediately rushed to try out the games. For a moment, they were transported back in time, enjoying the vintage games and reliving childhood memories. As they made their way through the building, they came across a room that seemed to be the control center for the park. They found old maps and blueprints, along with a journal that detailed the history of the park. According to the journal, the park was owned by a family who had poured their heart and soul into making it a success. However, a tragic accident on one of the rides had resulted in the death of several visitors, leading to the park's closure. The group couldn't believe what they were reading. They had always assumed that the rumors of the park being haunted were just stories, but now they were faced with the harsh reality. They felt a sudden chill in the air, and their once adventurous spirits were now replaced with fear and unease. "We should probably get out of here," one of them said, their voice trembling. As they made their way out of the building, they couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being watched. They quickened their pace, making their way back to the entrance of the park. As they reached the gates, they let out a sigh of relief, feeling the warmth of the sun on their skin. "Let's never come back here," one of them said, their voice laced with fear. The group nodded in agreement, knowing that this would be a memory they would never forget. As they walked away from the abandoned amusement park, they couldn't help but feel grateful for the experience. They had not only explored a forgotten place, but they had also learned a valuable lesson about the consequences of greed and neglect. And as they drove away, they couldn't help but glance back at the abandoned park, wondering what other secrets it held within its walls. The sun was setting on the once bustling city, casting a warm golden glow over the abandoned mall that stood at its heart. The group of friends had been planning this adventure for weeks, eager to explore the mysterious building that had been left untouched for years. As they approached the entrance, they were met with a sense of foreboding. The once grand doors were now rusted and covered in graffiti, a stark contrast to the pristine white marble floors that stretched out before them. "Wow, this place is huge," exclaimed Jake, the group's self-proclaimed leader. "I can't believe it's been abandoned for so long." The others nodded in agreement, their eyes taking in the vast space that lay ahead of them. The mall was like a maze, with different wings and levels branching off in all directions. It was clear that this had once been a popular spot for shoppers, with rows of storefronts and escalators leading up to a second floor. "Let's split up and explore," suggested Sarah, the adventurous one of the group. "We can cover more ground that way." They all agreed and set off in different directions, each taking in the sights and sounds of the abandoned mall. As they walked, they couldn't help but notice the eerie silence that hung in the air. The only sound came from their own footsteps echoing off the walls. The group made their way through the first level, marveling at the remnants of a forgotten time. Storefronts were still intact, their windows covered in dust and cobwebs. Mannequins stood frozen in time, their once fashionable clothes now outdated and faded. As they made their way up to the second floor, they came across a large open area that had once been a food court. Tables and chairs were scattered haphazardly, as if the patrons had left in a hurry. The group couldn't help but wonder what had caused the sudden abandonment of this once bustling place. As they continued their exploration, they stumbled upon an old movie theater. The marquee still proudly displayed the titles of long-forgotten films, and the group couldn't resist the temptation to step inside. The seats were worn and torn, but the screen and projector were still in working condition. They decided to take a break and watch a movie, enjoying the rare opportunity to have a private screening in an abandoned mall. After the movie, they made their way to the third level, which seemed to be the most neglected part of the mall. The walls were peeling and the floors were cracked, giving the area a haunted feel. But the group pushed on, determined to see every inch of the abandoned building. As they reached the end of the third level, they came across a door that seemed to lead to a hidden area. With a collective shrug, they opened the door and were met with a surprising sight. The room was filled with rows of old arcade games, their screens still glowing and tempting them to play. Excitedly, they each picked a game and spent the next hour reliving their childhood memories. The laughter and cheers echoed through the abandoned mall, filling it with life once again. As the night wore on, the group made their way back to the entrance, feeling satisfied with their adventure. They sat outside the mall, talking and reminiscing about the memories they had made that day. "It's a shame this place is abandoned," said Emily, the sentimental one of the group. "It still has so much potential." The others nodded in agreement, and they all took a moment to appreciate the beauty of the abandoned mall in the warm glow of the setting sun. They made a pact to come back and explore it again, hoping to uncover more secrets and hidden gems within its walls. As they left, they couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness for the abandoned mall. It was a reminder that nothing is permanent, and even the most grand and bustling places can one day be forgotten. But for that one day, the group had brought life back to the abandoned mall, and it would forever hold a special place in their hearts. The group of weary travelers trudged through the barren wasteland, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of shelter. It had been weeks since they left their previous settlement, and their supplies were running dangerously low. Just when they were about to give up hope, they stumbled upon an abandoned bunker nestled in the rocky cliffs. As they cautiously approached the bunker, they couldn't help but admire the sturdy metal doors and reinforced concrete walls. It was clear that this was once a military installation, now forgotten and left to the elements. The group decided to take shelter in the bunker, at least temporarily, while they figured out their next move. The first to enter was Jack, a tall and muscular man with a rugged look about him. He carefully inspected the entrance, making sure it was safe for the rest of the group. Looks like this place has been abandoned for a while, he grunted, pushing open the heavy doors. But it'll do for now. As they made their way inside, they were met with a dimly lit hallway lined with metal doors. The walls were adorned with peeling paint and rust, and the air was musty and stale. This place gives me the creeps, muttered Sarah, a young woman with a sharp wit and quick reflexes. Let's not waste any time, said Chris, the group's leader. We need to make sure this place is secure and then we can rest. Chris was a former soldier, with a calm and commanding presence that inspired trust in the group. They split up to explore the bunker, with Jack and Sarah checking the doors for any signs of danger, while Chris and the others searched for a suitable living area. It didn't take long for them to find a room with enough beds and supplies to accommodate the group. Looks like this was the living quarters for the soldiers, observed Lucy, a young girl who had been orphaned by the harsh world. I wonder what happened to them. The group settled in, grateful for the relative safety and comfort of the bunker. As they ate their meager rations, they discussed their plans for the future. We can't stay here forever, said Chris, his brow furrowed in thought. We need to find a way to make this place our own, or find another settlement to join. But where would we even go? Asked Jack, his eyes scanning the desolate wasteland outside. This place seems like the only option for miles. As they talked, they couldn't help but wonder about the world outside their temporary shelter. They had heard rumors of a new government rising from the ashes of the old world, but they had yet to see any signs of it. Maybe we should explore the area a bit more, suggested Sarah. There might be something out there that could help us. The group agreed, and they set out to explore the surrounding area. As they traveled, they marveled at the destruction and devastation that surrounded them. Buildings stood in ruins, and the landscape was littered with debris and abandoned vehicles. It was clear that the world they once knew was gone forever. But amidst all the destruction, they also found signs of hope. They stumbled upon a small community of survivors, banding together to build a new life in this harsh world. Maybe we can join them, said Lucy, her eyes shining with excitement. The group returned to the bunker, their spirits lifted by the possibility of a new home. They shared their findings with the others, and as they sat around a small fire, they talked about the future, and the world they now lived in. We may have lost everything we knew, said Chris, but we still have each other. And that's all that matters. As they settled in for the night, the group felt a sense of peace and contentment. They had found a new home, and they knew that together, they could face whatever challenges the new world threw their way. As they drifted off to sleep, they were grateful for the abandoned bunker that had brought them together, and for the bonds of friendship and family that they had formed within its walls. The sun was setting over the horizon as the group of friends wandered through the abandoned theme park. The once vibrant and bustling place was now dark and eerie, with overgrown plants and rusted rides. The group had always been fascinated by this place, but never had the courage to explore it until now. Leading the group was Sarah, a fearless and adventurous girl with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She had convinced her friends, Alex, Emily, and Jack, to join her in this daring adventure. As they made their way through the entrance, they were greeted by a faded sign that read Adventureland. Wow, look at this place, exclaimed Alex, a tall and muscular guy with a mischievous grin. It's like stepping into a time capsule. The group walked further into the park, taking in the sights and sounds of this forgotten place. The roller coasters, once the main attraction, now stood still and silent, covered in vines and rust. The arcade machines, with their flashy lights and loud music, were now nothing but dusty relics. Emily, a petite girl with curly brown hair, ran her hand along the faded logos of the stalls. I wonder what kind of games they used to have here, she mused. I bet they had all the classics, said Jack, a lanky boy with glasses and a love for all things vintage. Pac-Man, Space Invaders, maybe even some pinball machines. As they explored further, they came across a large castle, its walls crumbling and its towers reaching towards the sky. Sarah's eyes lit up as she saw the familiar structure. This is the castle from the fairy tale ride, she explained, remembering her childhood visits to the park. We have to go inside. The group cautiously made their way through the castle, the darkness only illuminated by the occasional ray of sunlight streaming through the cracks in the walls. They could hear the creaking of the floorboards beneath their feet and the sound of their own breathing, making the experience even more eerie. Remember when we used to be scared of this place? Laughed Alex, breaking the tension. Yeah, we were such scaredy cats, replied Emily, playfully punching him on the arm. As they emerged from the castle, they found themselves in the center of the park, surrounded by the remains of what used to be the main stage. The group sat down on the grass, taking a break from their exploration. It's crazy to think that this place used to be filled with people, said Sarah, gazing at the empty seats. All the laughter and screams, the excitement and joy. Yeah, it's like a ghost town now, added Jack, looking around at the deserted park. It's a shame that it had to close down, sighed Emily. I'm sure it brought a lot of happiness to people. The group sat in silence for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. But then, Alex's mischievous grin returned as he stood up and declared, well, since we have this whole place to ourselves, why don't we make the most of it? The group spent the rest of the evening riding the empty roller coasters, playing games on the arcade machines, and exploring every nook and cranny of the park. They even found a stash of fireworks and had a mini fireworks show, just like the old days. As the night fell, the group gathered in front of the main stage, watching the stars twinkle above them. They talked and laughed, reminiscing about their childhood visits to this park and making new memories. As they made their way out of the park, the group couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and nostalgia. Even though it was abandoned and forgotten, Adventureland had brought them closer together and reminded them of the carefree days of their youth. As they said their goodbyes and went their separate ways, Sarah turned around for one last look at the park. She smiled, knowing that no matter how much time passed, this place would always hold a special place in their heart.